Hey everyone, hope you all are doing well. If you've watched my videos before, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, my name's Dominic. And in today's video, I'm going to be walking through how I've significantly reduced my stress and anxiety related to managing my own personal budget. This is a topic that I'm pretty passionate about, as I just feel like for so long, I really struggled with getting control of my finances. And I know there's a lot of people out there who struggle with this as well. This became especially hard when I started a family, as there are some weeks where I feel like we are just constantly swiping the credit card. And with every swipe, my anxiety and stress levels just continue to increase and increase and increase. That's when I decided just to create a simple budget that I'll use to track all of my income and all of my expenses on a consistent basis. So I'm able to see the full picture of what money is coming in and what money is going out. And so what I like to do in today's video is pull up my own personal budget template and walk you guys through how I've optimized it for simple budget tracking. All right, so what I'm showing you on screen now is a template to my own personal budget. Please note, this is all fake data. None of this data is real. I basically just created this to give you an example of what your budget will look like once you actually start tracking your money. So there are tons of different budgeting and financial planning apps out there. However, for me, I find that just creating a simple spreadsheet that outlines my income and my expenses works best. So looking at my template, the first thing that I want to call out is, you can see here, everything in this section is related to my income. So I have different income streams called out. So let's say you're living with your significant other and you're both working full time. So here you can put the first income stream, and then you can put the second income stream. And you can see here, I've listed out the monthly incomes from each of those jobs. And then you can see I also have a row for cash backs. You know, I do most of my spending on credit cards, and so I'm constantly getting back rewards. And when I redeem those rewards, I just add them to the specific month. And then finally, you'll see here that I have a row for other. I also have this row set up in the expense section as well. And this is really just meant to be a catch-all. Let's say I get, I don't know, money for my birthday, or I get a tax return this year. I tend to throw those things just in this other category, as I would consider them outliers and not consistently showing up on my budget. Also, what I like to do is I like to total everything each month and then total up everything for the year. And so you can do that pretty easily. You can see I just created a simple sum formula where I'm just adding all of my income streams together for the month. And then looking at the right side of my spreadsheet, you can see I have a yearly total column and then a monthly average column. So all I'm doing in this yearly total column, summing up each month. And then for the average column, all I'm doing is, again, highlighting each month and then using this average formula to determine what my average income is. And then moving below the income section, you can see I have space for my expenses. And so just like my income, what I like to do is to call out my most frequent expenses. So you can see things in here like my mortgage for my house, electric, gas, other utilities, student loans are in here, my car payment, groceries are in here. And so these are my most consistent expenses. You can set this up for whatever meets your need. And then again, each month I go in and just add expenses for each of these categories. And on the right-hand side, I have my yearly totals and then my monthly averages as well. And then finally, jumping to the top of the spreadsheet, this is really the summary of how I'm doing for the year. So all I did was take my total income for the month and then my total expenses for the month. And then I subtracted my expenses from my income to get my net income. In other words, here's how much money I have after I subtract all of my expenses from my income.
So now that we understand how the template is set up, I want to go over
5 key tips to follow that will make your life so much easier when tracking and managing your own personal budget. The first thing that you need to do is stop thinking about your money from paycheck to paycheck. Instead, start thinking about your budget on a monthly basis. This simple adjustment was a game changer when I began managing my own budget. Looking at my budget here, you can see it's broken out month over month. And again, this gives me a holistic picture of how I'm doing each month. And then I can sum it up to see how I'm doing for the entire year. Again, this is a lot better than taking a paycheck to paycheck approach, because now I can see at the end of the month, I have a gas bill due. And so even though I'm getting paid today, I need to make sure to save at least $50 to go into my gas utility payment. And that's why having this monthly view is so important. The second tip I have for you is to try your best to identify all monthly recurring expenses so you can better plan and prepare for those payments when they're actually due. Looking at my expense section, you can see I've identified the recurring expenses by listing a due date by each of those expenses. That way I know exactly when the payment is due. And what I like to do is when I first enter in my expenses, I leave all of the dates red, meaning I still have to pay them. And then once I make a payment, I go ahead and turn them green. This helped me tremendously when keeping track of which bills I still need to pay. Because I identify these as a monthly recurring expense, when planning for the next month, I can just go ahead and copy and paste those expenses into the next month section, which again helps me better plan for expenses that I know I have to save money for. For the third tip, I highly recommend calculating your monthly averages for your expenses so you can then use those averages to anticipate what your expenses may be in the future. So for example, looking at the grocery line item, you can see on average, I'm typically spending $811 per month. Again, the way that I did that is just take the average of all of my months combined for the year, and that's how I got to 811. And so what I typically do, if I'm planning for the next month, I know that I'm typically spending around $800, and so that's what I'll budget for the future. Now, this is also really helpful for trying to determine if I need to make any changes to my budget. So let's say, I can see I'm spending $811 on average. However, that seems really high to me and I want to bring that down. And so moving forward, I'm actually going to budget $500, which in return brings my average down and helps me save that money, or allows me to allocate it to somewhere else in my budget. And so I really like to use these averages for planning purposes. Getting to the fourth tip, this is probably the one thing that I struggle with the most when managing my budget, but I would highly encourage you to try to update your budget on a weekly basis. Updating your budget more frequently and consistently will give you more real-time insight to where your money is going and what your expenses are, and then will help you make decisions based off how you're trending for the month. Like I said, this is something that I still struggle with, as managing your budget does take time and requires dedication and consistency. But again, I want to reiterate the importance of just staying consistent with it, as if you're only updating your budget once a month, it's really pointless of even doing one, because you're not getting those consistent insights into your budget, and so you're unable to make informed decisions based off those insights. And finally, for tip number 5, this one might seem obvious, but I'm going to say it out loud. You should always ensure that your income is higher than your expenses, meaning money that you're making always exceeds the amount of money that you're spending. When looking at my net income, you can see if I have a net positive income for the month, I highlight the amount in green, and then if it's a negative net income for the month, I highlight it in red. There's a very simple way to do that. All you have to do is highlight the cell that you want to color code, go up to conditional formatting, select highlight cell roles, and then I do greater than, and then you can change it here, green fill with dark green text, and then greater than 0. And so that will help me identify if I have a positive net income or a negative net income. So looking at how I'm doing for the year so far, you can see in my yearly total, I'm actually doing pretty well. Right now, I'm a net positive of a little over $1,000. Where I would be concerned is if this was a negative number, because that would mean I'm losing money year over year, which, as you probably know, is not ideal. So that's basically it. Just by doing these simple activities, I've significantly reduced my stress and anxiety when it comes to my personal finances. If this seems like a lot after watching this video, I promise you it'll be worth it. You will feel so much better about your money. You will feel so much more confident about making decisions. And if you're struggling with your spending habits, starting a budget and actually seeing the money go out is the first step to getting your financials back on track. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have any best practices that you're currently doing that I didn't call out today, please feel free to put them in the comments below. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. And thank you again for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.